What's up guys, Rich here with Zodiac's Super Sea Wolf 53 skin. And it's in 39 millimeters and it uses a 20 millimeter strap width. It has a slightly bubbled case back, and including the bubbled case back and the slightly raised crystal, and it is a sapphire crystal, it's about 13 millimeters tall. But if you don't consider the bottom of the case back, it's only about 11 millimeters tall. It's not a chunky watch at all. I think it wears really nicely, and this 39 millimeters I think is a really great universal size. I'm really excited about Zodiac watches, especially learning more about the history, because there's a lot to appreciate about this brand. It's one of the earlier dive watches for consumers from the early 50s, but it's also one of the lesser known dive watches from the early 50s, because while Zodiac has been around since 1882, the Super Sea Wolf debuted in 1953, and it is a Swiss-made brand. And when I just got done saying that it's one of the lesser-known brands from the early dive watches, that's because in the same year of 1953, where the name the 53 skin came from, is because 53 represents the year that was born or debuted of 1953. But so did Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and then 1 year later, the Rolex Submariner. And so it's the 50 Fathoms and the Submariner that really get all the headlines and the two dive watches that are talked about the most from one of the earlier releases for consumers. But Zodiac Super Sea Wolf was right up there with them. And that's why I consider this an exciting watch, because of its history. And there are two characteristics that we determine the value of a watch. Its history or its DNA, and whether or not it has an in-house movement. And whether or not we agree with those two characteristics, those are two arguments that are often used when determining the value of a watch. And Zodiac has both the history and an in-house movement, which we'll cover in a little bit. I think there's a lot to like about this Super Sea Wolf. It's a very striking watch. It's a very handsome watch. And I think the star of this has to be the dial. I really like those triangular hour markers at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6, and 9. And I think the only other watch that has or utilizes the triangular hour markers to mind is Eterna's Kon-Tiki. And I think Zodiac pulled it together really nicely. It's really tastefully done. I think you can see the slightly textured black dial. It's a little harder to see on video, but there it is. I think you can see it. Slightly textured, which is a really nice touch. But as much as I like those triangular hour markers, I also like the orange triangular shape on the tip of the second hand, right below the tip there, right? It's subtle, but it's there. And the reason I like it is because it's consistent with the hourly triangular markers there on the second hand. So it's subtle, but it's tastefully done, and again, it's consistent. And on those triangular hour markers, it is indicated with the numbers 12, 3, 6, 9, and it is loomed as well as the bezel. And it produces a really nice warm orange glow as the luminescence. So again, really nicely and well thought out on this dial. So what makes it sharp is those details like that, the triangular seconds tip. So it has really nice turn action utilizing the ceramic bezel insert. It's entirely in a brushed case, and it's really nicely finished. Smooth and even. It's something that you would expect from a Zodiac watch. It is a signed crown, it is a screw down crown, and it is water resistant to 200 meters. So again, I think it pulls together really nicely. One of the other things that Zodiac is proud of is the Italian rubber strap here, which I really like, because one, I like rubber. I prefer rubber over silicone, because silicone is a real dust magnet versus rubber. But it also has a nice vanilla scent. It's really comfortable, and there's really no break-in period that had to go into the strap. And you know, in the early days, the strap manufacturers had to scent or mask the rubber straps with vanilla, just because of the chemical smells and because of the natural smell of rubber, which a lot of people found offensive. So they would have to scent that. Not so much the case anymore these days. They've been able to figure that out. So Zodiac does not have to scent their rubber straps with vanilla. But I like it, and it's just the reason I like it. Well, I like vanilla, but it's also consistent with it being a nice throwback to the early days of the Super Sea Wolf. So again, lots of consistencies and nice touches that Zodiac put into not only the case and dial, but the strap. It is heavily branded. There's a logo at one end, On the keeper, it says Zodiac. On the other side of the keeper, it says 1882, the year that Zodiac started. And then on the other end, where I just showed you there's another logo there. So while it is heavily branded, it is not noticeable. You won't be able to see it, but you know that it's there, as Zodiac takes a lot of pride in this watch. A really comfortable strap. You can also get a Tropic strap. I like the strap that it came on. There is their sign buckle. So now let's talk about the movement and why it's an in-house movement. The movement that is powering the Super Sea Wolf 53 skin is the STP 111 movement. And Zodiac's parent company is the Fossil brand. So Fossil owns Zodiac watches, and they also manufacture the Swiss-made movement, the STP. So that is how they categorize it, an in-house movement. I know that some people might not be as familiar with the STP movement, but it is meant to compete with the ETA 2824 and the Sellita 200. And to help put that into perspective regarding movements, it was just a couple of years ago when we used to question the Sellita movement, right? We weren't really certain about it. Is it as good as the ETA 2824? Because the Sellita is a new movement meant to compete with ETA. But now we don't question the Sellita movement anymore. Now it's a fully appreciated, fully respected movement. Sellita also makes COSC grade movements. And a lot of the mainstream brands also use the Sellita movement. I mean, IWC and Breitling also still use the Sellita movement. So I think eventually I think the STP movement can get there. It's also, I think they have one additional jewel over the ETA 2824 and the Sellita 200 movement. So I can talk about my experience with the 111 movement. This is the second watch that I have that uses the STP 111 movement. It has 42 hours of power reserve, but it has been super accurate to me, both watches that I own. On a Super Sea Wolf, on the first day, 24 hours later, I had 0 deviation in terms of accuracy. On the second day, I had plus 2 seconds a day. And then on the third day, it remained at plus 2 seconds a day. So 0 deviation from the second day, still plus 2 seconds a day over the first 3 days. And that's where I stopped testing the watch. So it's been super accurate, super reliable for me so far. And those specs, they are well within the COSC standards of plus 4 seconds to plus 6 seconds a day. So from my experience, the STP movement has been truly wonderful. It is also a true date, no movement. And what I mean by that is a lot of times if they'll give you that no date look, it'll still have the date wheel there. It's just covered up by a portion of the dial or by one of the minute marker or the hour markers. And you can tell because when you pull the crown out, you would still have to pull it out to the second position to change the time. And that's how you would know that there's still a date wheel in there. They just cover up the date. This is a true no date because you can just pull it out to the first position and you can change the time there. So another nice touch and another genuine touch by Zodiac. It has a solid case back that's held together by 6 screws. It's also a limited edition version to 500 pieces, as you can see there. Mine is number 175 of 500. So there's just a lot to like about the Super Sea Wolf 53 skin, from its history to the actual quality of this model. I've really enjoyed this watch. But is there something that's worth noting that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of improvement on? Yes. And as nice as that orange luminescence is, it's not the strongest. So what I mean by that is I had this fully charged under natural sunlight, but I still received only about 25 minutes of lume before it would quickly fade. So that's just something worth noting on an otherwise terrific watch. A really great daily wear, and I think a really ideal watch for the summer. So I've been really enjoying this a lot. The retail price is $1,195. And again, we get history, we get an in-house movement by their parent company. And so I think that Super Sea Wolf or any of the Super Sea Wolf collection is absolutely worth our consideration. And another really strong point to it is that when we talk about a movement determining some of the value of a watch, when we talk about some of the entry-level or more affordable watches, Nomos is one of the first brand that comes to mind with their in-house movement. And on their 3-timers, for some of their club version, I think it's about $1,500, $1,700 or even $3,000. And we are really pleased with that for the in-house movement. And Zodiac has a richer history and the same in-house movement. So I think at this price point, it's a really great value because it's not just the movement, it's just the overall quality of the watch. So again, it's just an easy recommend to recommend a Zodiac watch. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time.